Hi, this is Kelly Muskorski.
And Ryan Frankowski.
And you're listening to
Mocktails Are Messy. And today we have a special guest all the way from Los Angeles, California. Our favorite No Filter with Zack. What's going on, Zack? Mr.
Hi,
Zack
guys.
Peter. Okay, so you got to give me the rundown. I mean, I feel like you're glowing. Something's going on right now. Like, what's different in your life? Are you happy? Do you have a boyfriend? Are you working out a lot more?
I'm living life right now, and I am working out right now. I work out every morning at 6 a.m. I'm getting ready. I know we both do Orange Theory, so I'm getting ready for our Orange Theory dry try this weekend. I've been training for it.
Yes. And what got you into Orange Theory? I started seeing you do it, and I'm like, I started doing it, I think, around the same time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Did you influence me or did I influence you?
Well, I mean, I just started doing Orange Theory because I moved into a new apartment and there's literally an Orange Theory right downstairs. So there's like no excuse. There's like a scheduled time that I have to show up and it's literally downstairs. So there's no commute anywhere.
That is amazing. I think that's how they get you hooked. Like they put them in your building strategically and then you're like, I have to join.
Yeah, and I did it. I started like twice a week and then I liked it and then I upgraded to the unlimited membership and now I'm there every day.
Well, you look amazing. I see you flexing, brother. You are hot. And this is my girl, Kelly, who is a personal trainer.
Hi.
She is one of my ex-girlfriends, now best girlfriend. We are literally just excited to dive into the podcast world. And you are an inspiration for both of us.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Yes, you are. Can you tell us what got you started with podcasting?
I mean, I started 9 years ago, I think at this point. Yeah, back in 2015. So I'm not good at math, but I think that calculation, I think I've been doing this for about 9 years now. And I was originally doing stand-up and starting to dabble into like some YouTube stuff. And, there was this like brand new podcast studio. It was like the first ever podcast studio here in LA. And they were like, listen, we want to bring in like more comedic talent to come in. I think at the time they had like Joe Rogan, who was taping a couple of shows there and just like other stand-up comics that were coming and trying to build shows. And, I took a meeting with them, kind of like the vibe. And they're like, listen, just give it a try. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try for about a year. And at this point, it's 2015. Like nobody really knows what podcasting is. I remember like having to explain it to people and be like, it's like Netflix, but like it's like radio, but like on demand. So it's like Netflix, but like audio only. And I was like trying to explain it to people and nobody understood it. Well, I didn't even understand what it was. And I just decided to give it a try. And I would say, I think I bombed for like the first 4, maybe 5 years until I like really found my footing and like learned how to, really hone in on it. And now it's my full-time job.
What is your advice for podcasters like us then that are just starting out?
Just do it. I mean, everyone talks about, I want to start a podcast. I have an idea for a podcast.
Yeah.
Like everybody talks about it. And I'm like, get off. Like Kim Kardashian said, get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days. And I stand by that statement because that's what you need to do. You just need to stop talking about it, get up and start doing it, and know that the first 6 months are going to be probably the hardest. And the first 3 years are probably going to be the hardest. People come in and they're done in 3 months because they realize, oh, there's like actual work to this. They want to start a podcast, make money the next day. And it's like, no, if you want to make this sustainable and you want to make it, a genuine source of income, you need to put in the work. You need to build, cultivate a community, build an audience, and just brick by brick builds it. And eventually, you'll get it to a solid place. But it's one step at a time.
We're on the right track.
Yes. And honestly, you inspired, or I keep saying inspired. I hate that I use the same word. It's like the same word. But I told Kelly about my first meeting. Like it was like a business dinner date, like with you. And I like asked you out and I'm like, I really just want to get to know him. I feel like he's like this celebrity, but then I'm like, I need to like be business oriented and ask him really what it's like to be a podcaster.
Let's hear about this date from both perspectives.
Well, I don't know. Did you think it was a date or did you think it was just some person that was like trying to get your whatever?
I mean, I feel like in LA, you never know if like you're going on a date or it's just like a business meeting or like let's meet for coffee. So I mean, I was just like, oh, okay, we're going out, we're hanging out, and I didn't get a second date, so I was like, well, I guess I fucked that up.
Oh my God, no. I literally left LA because it was just.
I know, I'm teasing you.
And I mean, you're a busy man. It's like hard to get you booked. I had to go through your manager now. I couldn't even go through you normally.
Listen, David runs my life. He runs my I literally don't know what I'm doing unless David has it scheduled in my calendar because my life is just so busy and chaotic. Even right now, he's like, he's like, okay, we're going to switch things around and you're going to do an event tonight. And I'm like, okay, just tell me where to be and I'll be there.
I love it. I mean, I do feel like he's got your back, and I like was looking him up, and he represents some pretty big talent.
Yeah, and I've known him for many, many years before he even started repping me. He was actually I used to have an agent at A3, which was formerly Abrams Artist Agency, and he was the assistant to my agent at the time. So I've known him, and we've, sort of like unofficially worked together for so long until eventually we're like, all right, I think it's time that we officially get into bed together professionally, and we did.
I really like that.
You do not have a filter, and I think that's something we have in common. Or do you feel like you created this no filter movement and now everybody is jumping on board like, oh, I just want to say anything I feel?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of people who like to think like I have no filter and but there also comes like you still need to have a filter when not having a filter. You know what I mean? Like there still need I think a lot of people say I have no filter and then they just use that as an excuse to like be an asshole in the world. And I'm just like, no, you can like have no filter and be open about how you feel about things and your opinion about things. And like if you're gonna say it, then like say it with your whole chest and stand on it. Whereas I think a lot of people they try to be no filter. But listen, there's only one OG.
Yes, there is. And it's your I mean, now that you say it, it's like you are a stand-up comedian that became a podcaster. So like that's something to be said. Like if you're going to have no filter, you got to be a little witty behind it.
Yeah. And listen, I don't say anything if I don't absolutely mean it. And I say it with conviction. And I know that sometimes that triggers reactions from people. And sometimes I open myself up to, criticism sometimes. And I think a lot of these, other people that think they have no filter, can't often handle the heat that comes with having no filter. But it's like you have to accept the good and the bad. People are going to appreciate you for having no filter. And people are also, going to be triggered or they're going to be intimidated or they're going to find things that you say that they don't like. I came across this one person recently that launched their own version of a no filter podcast. And it was literally a direct knockoff down to the exact logo. She just made the logo pink instead of blue. And I was like, this kind of feels like it's a direct, like as Bethany Frankel would say, a cheater brand.
Tipsy girl.
And she was just like, yeah, tipsy girl. She was like, no, I just have no filter. And people say I have no filter on TikTok. And I'm just like, sweetie, like, let's, be a little more original. Listen, I invite every creator to come into the space, but like pave your own path. Don't try to rip off other people in the game. Do what's true and authentic to you and you'll continue to shine. And I don't know how long her podcast is going to last, but good luck to her.
Not long. But I do have a question for you. Have you ever been threatened by somebody after putting out bad press on them?
Threatened in like what way? Like they wanted to shank me on the street? Listen,
yeah, maybe.
I've definitely gotten like blocked on social media from like housewives and stuff. I mean, well, first of all, I don't put out bad tea. Number one, I don't put out the low budget tea. But I have, for the most part, I feel like either they block me and don't want anything to do with me. I have gotten a couple of cease and desists, which are usually fun. They don't scare me anymore. Listen, a cease and desist is literally just like a scare tactic to say, I will sue you if you don't stop doing this. I'm like, okay, then I'll just stop doing that and you have no grounds to sue me.
Right.
It sounds scarier than it is, I guess.
It sounds a lot scarier than it actually is. But when you actually, study up on what these things mean, you realize that they're scare tactics.
Yeah. Is that kind of related to like the Bravo, Bravo, Bravo? Or no?
Um,
Like,
Not that situation specifically, but
oh,
yeah, no, I mean, that does happen a lot in this world.
yeah, yeah. So like you're connected with a lot of reality stars, the Bravo community. Is it because you are so passionate about reality TV, or is there another reason?
Listen, I just love reality TV, so I can watch it and talk about it all day, and I can have opinions about it all day. And I'm also like, when you're in LA, like a lot of the reality stars either move here if they're on another show, or we have like the Real Houses of Beverly Hills and Selling Sunset and Buying Beverly Hills and Vanderpump Rules, and all of those shows are based in LA. So you naturally just come across other people and build relationships with them. I try to be mindful and like not get too close to them because obviously I still have to comment about their lives and what we see on their shows. So I try to be mindful of it, but I've definitely forged some good friendships with people here in LA.
Yeah, speaking of mindful, I see that you are mindfully drinking now. You're not just ordering the tequila when you go out. You're having a Diet Coke.
Well, I know. I had my first Diet Coke in like 12 years. It was an experience. Because I normally like didn't drink. So it's funny because I'm pretty clean, in terms of like my health regimen. I mean, I follow more of like an 80-20 rule, but for the most part, like I didn't really drink soda, but like I would still have my martinis, I would still drink. But in training for dry try this weekend, I had to make sure, like I wanted to make sure my body was in pristine shape so that come this weekend, I mean, even some of the coaches are like, "We think you're going to really kill it. Like, you may perform better than we will." And I'm like, "Well, because I've been going hard."
Yes, you are. And like, I'm impressed. Your 2,000-meter row. Like, what did you get that? What was your time?
Oof, I don't remember. Is six something? I think six
That's
minutes and six
that's
forty
really
seven or something.
good. Yeah, like 6 minutes. I think I got like something like 6:58 and I was like dying.
We'll fact check this because I'm gonna
Yeah.
flex on it now that you're bringing it up.
But thank you for also coming prepared with your martini. We wanted to send it to you. We tried to kind of organize that, but you are in an undisclosed location. And I don't think they DoorDash martinis to your location, Zach. So next time we're gonna get one in person and I owe you a martini.
Okay, I my best 2,000 meter was 6:41.
Ooh, so he
Ooh,
beat you.
you
So
beat
were you
me.
ever an athlete back in the day?
No, no,
Oh.
I was so fat growing up, and that's not to fat shame anybody except myself, but like I was so fat growing up. I hated sports. I was so unathletic. I was so terrible at playing sports. My mother kept like pushing me to play sports. Even now, like on when I do work out at Orange State, I think my best mile was like what was hold on. Oh, my best mile. I did my 1 mile benchmark and I came in at 5:47. So under 6 minutes.
That is
Um,
good.
Yeah.
so I'm running up that hill. And so people be like, are you a runner? Are you an athlete? I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I just listen, a bitch has been through some shit. So I know endurance and I know how to just tear through a workout,
You're
you know?
competitive.
And I'm very, very competitive. If there's an old lady next to me and she thinks she can take me, I'm gonna run laps around her.
I mean, I still, when you first told me that you were a little bit bigger as a kid, I was like, you look so lean. So, like, you're
Mhm.
either like super healthy, you work out like a fiend, or you're on Ozempic.
Listen, I would love to be on Ozempic. It would make it so much easier, but I am not on Ozempic. I do take berberine, which is like a more it's like they call it nature's Ozempic, because it helps stabilize blood sugar levels. But it's just a supplement that I buy on Amazon. But no, I'm not on Ozempic. I was really, really heavy. Yeah, I think I lost like 70 pounds. I was really overweight. And then I battled with eating disorders in high school and college. I had to like go into a full treatment center because I had become underweight. And then, eventually now I'm in like a much better, healthier headspace and heart space and spiritual place where, I've made peace with my body. I've made peace with food. I've made peace with calories. I've made peace with the scale. For the longest time, I couldn't weigh myself because, I would become so fixated on that, on the numbers that now I've been able to kind of settle and find some balance.
So we did screen record one of your Instagram stories last week because he
Oh,
has a
yay.
bone to pick with you.
I got a
Oh,
little
no.
beef. I got some beef with No Filter with Zack.
Okay, what is the beef?
Okay, or maybe do I have beef with just plain Zack? I don't know which one.
Who are we talking to?
Who are we talking to, Zack?
There's only one. He just comes in many forms.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, we understand you. But I saw that you were talking shit about our mocktails. You said if I'm gonna be out, I'm not gonna get some juice that's like $15. I might as well get the real thing.
So it's day 3. No sugar, no alcohol. I sound like an alcoholic. I'm not an alcoholic. But like normally, like at the end of the day, you're like, oh, let's just have like let's open a bottle of wine, whatever. But so I had to go to dinner tonight, and I was like, am I going to do this? Am I going to be able to like go out? Because normally, if I go out to dinner, I go out to brunch, I'll have a drink. And so I was like, do I want maybe have like a glass of wine? Maybe I'll get like a a tequila on the rocks, like something simple, just one, right? And then I got there and I was like, nah, I'm good. And I had a Diet Coke. I haven't had a Diet Coke since I was like in high school. It still tasted the same, but I was just like shooketh that I had a Diet Coke. Who have I become? Instead of getting a cocktail, or instead of getting a mocktail, which is really just juice and like sparkling water. Fuck that. I don't want a mocktail. Mocktails are ridiculous. And mocktails are the same price as cocktails. Like, don't give me a cocktail without the cock. I want the full cock and the tail. You know what I mean? I don't want a mocktail. And so I know Diet Coke is probably not the best option, but I wanted to indulge a little bit. At least I knew there was no sugar and there was no alcohol. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just saying, I was trying to indulge. It was only $4 in comparison to like a $14 mocktail. The fuck? So yeah, it was an interesting time.
I stand by it, Brian. I stand by that statement. I said, because you know what it is? Because here in LA, so I'm doing a 2-week no alcohol detox, preparing for the dry try. I went to dinner with one of my neighbors, and we were looking at the menu, and she's like, are you drinking? And I was like, well, I was like, well, do they have, like, what do they have that's like non-alcoholic? And this is where I got my Diet Coke. Cause she looked at it, and we're looking at the mocktails, and the mocktails are the same price as the cocktails. And I'm like, why do I want a cocktail without the cock? Give me the cock. I want the full tail. I don't want a mocktail for the same price. And it's not even the same fun. It's just all the more calories. No, thank you.
You know what? Okay, so I mean, I will say, like, the places I've been that I've gotten the mocktails, like, say, Malibu House or this place in Silver Lake, they've made them significantly cheaper, like almost 50% of what the actual cocktail would be.
Okay.
So I feel you on that. Like, if I'm going, like, I don't drink right now. It's been 3 months. But, like, you're right. To be the same price, you might as well just be like, fuck it, unless it's 0 sugar and 0 calories. Right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you might dabble.
Yeah. Listen, I love a good soda water. Give me some soda water with a lemon, and there's my mocktail.
Now, what if they like had a fancy garnish and a fancy glass, and it was shaken, and it had 0 sugar, 0 calories, and say it was $10?
Yeah. Listen, I will imbibe. I would rather have that than like a Diet Coke.
Yes. I just want to be part of it with you. Like, if I'm going to go out with you in LA whenever I come visit.
Yeah, you want to have fun.
Yeah, I don't want you to know that I'm dry.
But most of the time, mocktails are not fun. I stand by it.
Do you think they're messy, or do you think that they're just boring? Do you think they're...
I think that they're boring.
Oh shit!
They're overpriced and unless it's a good Listen, there have been some good mocktails. I've made some good mocktails here. Where I'll be like, okay, let me get some soda water, some lemon, let me get some bitters.
Yes.
Let me do. And you can have some fun with it. So I have dabbled and played around with some mocktails, but I refuse to pay for an $18 mocktail at a restaurant.
Okay, well that's good to know. That's good to know. When we go out, I'll make sure that I get you the $7 ones.
Okay.
Because I do get you on that concept. Like Kelly, like I'm the Mr. Mocktail. Kelly's the Miss Messy. She likes to indulge in still cocktails. But like I know myself, like it wasn't serving me anymore. And I still finally get that placebo buzz. Like when you're out with a lot of fun.
Yeah. I have been enjoying mushrooms lately.
Oh, the microdose, or like just like Oh,
No, the
nice.
microdose. I'm not doing a full mushroom. I'm not like but a little microdose of a mushroom is fun. It kind of, loosens you up. Or even the functional mushrooms, like the lion's mane and the reishi. I know there are a lot of mocktails that are made with that still kind of loosen, like make you feel a little looser. They don't have the psychedelic effect, but they make you feel a little looser and they, are more functional. Those are fun too. See, but like those are mocktails that are worth it. Don't just throw some orange juice and some soda water and, garnish it with a bush and make me think it's going to be anything special.
Exactly. Now, I'm sure you've been around a lot of messy people, like, just being a podcaster, talking to a lot of these guests. Do you ever get any guests that get too intoxicated during an interview?
Oh, I once did do like this very short-lived podcast with Courtney Stodden. Most people know her from when she was like 16. She married like this 50-year-old man, and she was like a big tabloid fixture. And so eventually, and she's done like a number of reality shows at this point. And so they were launching a podcast for her that they asked me to come in and be. I was told that I was going to be like one of the like regular commentators on the show, and then eventually they ended up like trying to make me the co-host of her show. And she would come in and she was always lit. She was always drinking and doing all sorts of stuff, and I was like, oh my god, this girl is a mess. So that was not a pleasurable experience working with her because she was way too messy, and she would get messy on the show, like trying to cause beef with, it was just drama.
No drama for you.
No drama. Well, listen, I do love drama. People were like, I don't like drama. I'm like, you're a liar. Everybody
does. Yeah.
Everybody loves a little mess.
Yes.
So you do have a new podcast, Disaster Daters. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you have like 6 episodes out right now, right?
Yeah, speaking of mess. So it's me and my friend Jeff, and we are pretty bad at dating. LA is not an easy town to date in, but so we put all of our worst dating, sex, relationship stories out on the show, and we dissect them in every episode. We also have people send in their stories with their disaster dates or disaster sex stories, and we have guests come on and talk about their terrible experiences in hoping that we can like kind of learn through the mess that we all kind of lived through. But yeah, Jeff and I definitely put our lives on full display on Disaster Daters.
I really love that concept. I feel like he's going through that in Pittsburgh right now.
Oh, are you going through a disaster dater situation, Ryan?
Oh my god, it was bad. Like, you think
what happened?
You think you'll know somebody, and like I just can't. I kind of gave him a warning, like, "Hey, I'm getting out of a 5-year relationship," and so then all of a sudden he says, "I'd really like us to smash."
People still say smash these days. That's a red flag.
Exactly. So I just kind of ignored it because we were working, and he just got so like gung ho, like upset that I wasn't responding. I mean, we're recording. He's like, "Forget it. I will beat the shit out of you if I see you again.
Oh.
You are fake and play games. Honesty and integrity is something you lack."
Wow. Do you feel like that's an honest statement?
I mean, I am a little flaky because I like to overcommit because I'm like, I think it's just in my brain. I'm like, oh, I'll get everything done. And yeah. I don't know if flaky is the right word. Like, when you're trying. And so probably I might have said like, hey, like, yeah, I'll be done at 7. And then it ends up being like 9. And you can't really respond when you're recording. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, that's a red flag. You need to have clear communication.
Yes. You're right. And listen, I'm not really
but also he sounds batshit crazy. Swipe
he's
left.
Crazy, but maybe you're a little bit at fault here.
But you should and this is what we learned on Disaster Daters. Every situation that you find yourself in, there's something that you need to learn about yourself in that situation.
Yes, you are really right.
Maybe you're addicted to crazy.
Fuck. I mean, I do find myself, and I want to know both of your issues with like what you're attracted to and you look past. Like, I think what I did in the past, I was attracted to party animals, and that wasn't really good for me. And by default, I've become the mocktail man because I was just like obsessed with these party animals that were fun, entertaining, hilarious, but they were just like too big into the like, let's go out, let's get drunk. Like, and that kind of, seeped onto me. I mean, do you guys find like,
yeah, so I look past anyone who's attractive. All of my friends are attractive.
That's very vain or very vapid, Kelly.
I'm a visual person. I like to look at pretty people.
Yeah.
What about you, Zach?
I love to go after guys with lots of potential, right? I like to see where I like a good fixer-upper. I'm like the Property Brothers. I'm like, ooh, let me move in and just start hammering away at things. Like, I love a good project. If I can save you, it brings my heart joy. And so often I fall in love with the potential rather than the reality. And then I find myself in the cycle of realizing that I'm going after people that maybe aren't able to meet me where I'm at and meet me with what I want and what I know I deserve. So I settle for less because, again, I love a good project. The more potential, the better.
Do you think that you would get bored with somebody that like had all their shit together? You might look past them.
I mean, I'm not looking for somebody that has their shit together entirely because I want to always be in a constant state of growth and progression and building something. And so I would like to start to build something with someone. But I have found that guys that are a little more stable are a little more boring.
I know. What's up with
like
that?
A mocktail. Yeah, like a mocktail.
Oh, shit. Exactly.
I don't know. My husband has his shit together and like, I love him to death, but he's a little more boring now.
Yeah.
I need to find ways to spice this up now.
She's like a little drama seeker, like you said. Everybody loves a little.
I love drama. Oh my God. Chaos. Yeah. There are times where I'll just text my friends and I'm like, I'm really bored. I think I may start some drama. And they're like, please don't.
Texted me that before.
Like, please don't.
Wait, so when's the last time that you did start a little bit of drama and you were like, oh shit, should I have done that?
Well, okay, this is recent. So one of my friends just went through a breakup, right? And so his ex-boyfriend kind of somehow still stayed within the friend group. And so we had a mutual friend that like invited the ex over to his apartment and then also invited my friend over to his apartment. So it was like a potentially messy situation where it's like you're inviting two exes. They could potentially run into each other at your apartment. And so I just kind of, was sharing how I thought that the situation was very messy and the optics of the situation looked really bad. But because I was opening my mouth to other friends in the friend group, kind of just made a few waves. But I love making waves. They're just, they bring me joy.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have a lot in common with you because I called his ex last week because I was trying to get him on our podcast, but I mean, he didn't answer. But I was, maybe I'll try to call him again. I don't think I did that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I
love this revelation.
We got like a really bad slap on the wrist after we divulged the breakup, like on our second episode for this season. And it was just like I had to, kind of discommunicate from the ex, and they weren't happy because I was so open and honest about it. But yourself, like if you take this job seriously, you do at some degree have to be an open book. Now, you should refrain from certain levels of privacy, or you should refrain from maybe mentioning names or, date of birth or stuff like that. I mean, where do you draw the line in the sand, Zach, from maybe being too open?
Yeah, that's become a really challenging lesson I've had to learn, especially recently, with being mindful and respectful of other people's like boundaries and privacy. Cause like for me, I'm just an open book and I will put it all out there and I'll take whatever comes with that. Right. Whether it makes me look stupid or ridiculous or whatever it makes me look, I'm fine with that perception because I like to think that if I can be fully honest, open and transparent, that hopefully people will be able to learn something through it or be able to relate to me and at least feel like they're not alone through my own bullshit that I put out out into the world. But I've had to learn that some people don't like when their business, even though it's related to you, gets put out there. And so I've had to be more mindful, and even lately had to like edit certain podcast episodes to respect people's privacy, because they're like, I don't feel comfortable with that, being out there. And I'm like, but it's my life too. And it's like, but you have to be respectful of people's boundaries and privacy. So I'm learning that lesson, but I love learning boundaries so I know just how far I can push them.
You love learning them. And I feel like you've always been like raw, open, honest. Like, did you edit much? Like, I mean, just like, no.
No, to this day, I don't really edit much unless somebody's like specifically asking me to edit something out. I don't edit much at all. I kind of just put it all out there. I mean, the show's called No Filter, so I kind of just put it all on the table.
Wow. I like the sound of that. That saves yourself a lot of time.
Yes and no. It's challenging though. When you are so open, you are so vulnerable, you also open yourself up to criticism. You open yourself up to people knowing your weak spots, that they can kind of, what buttons that they want to push because they know that they're going to trigger you. The internet is an interesting place to live on, but it's the only way I know how to live my life,
Well, I mean, to have like over millions, like, I mean, I was just looking your YouTube, like over 15 million subscribers, and like across all your channels, like so many people that really probably, would you say it's a 50-50 shot? You have 50% love and 50% haters, but the haters are still following.
They keep it's so funny. People will send me like screenshots of like Reddits that people will make about me. And it's literally people that will like listen to the show every day and then go and critique. And I'm like, you know what? At least you're still listening. Thank you.
I love that. I mean, that's kind of but I'm sure it gives you a little bit of gasoline to keep going, like cheers.
For sure.
Cheers.
It definitely, I mean, I always like to gauge success less about like the love or positive comments that you get, and more of just like the volume, right? The engagement. Are you getting a lot of people that are responding and talking about you? And I think my job, the way I look at it, is my job is to invoke a reaction out of people, not for the sake of like sensationalizing it, but like I want to be a little thought provoking. I like to play devil's advocate. I like to look at both sides of the coin and hopefully get people to maybe open up their mind or change their perspective, whether it's something as fictitious as, pop culture reality TV, or it's something that's a little more, of a serious or heavier topic. I like to kind of shift people's perspectives. And so even when people disagree with me or they have negative comments that they have to share, I still gauge that as success because there's still something that I've done that invoked enough of a reaction that prompted them to leave a comment, which means that there's something that I said that either resonated or struck a nerve. And, it's definitely continuing to keep the conversation going.
Well said.
Yeah, I love that. Do you have a favorite podcaster
besides yourself?
I mean, I don't listen to my own podcast unless I have to. Listen, I have to hear myself talk all day. I do have a couple of favorite. Right now, I'm really loving Tori Spelling's podcast. That is a hot mess express. She is a disaster. And like, she is just, that is messy. So that's my number one podcast right now.
Now, why is she so messy? Like, I mean, just like I can only imagine.
Well, her first episode was her calling her husband to let him know that she had filed for divorce. And she's on the phone with him as she's telling him this on the podcast. And then the next episode is her in her storage unit going through all her stuff and realizing that like she got the wrong storage unit because they were going to she couldn't afford any of her storage units, so they were going to auction off all her stuff. So she got some of her friends to loan her money to open up the storage units, and then the storage unit that they decided to open up had a bunch of her ex-husband's stuff, and she's going through it on the pod. It's just chaotic. And then her most recent episode, she talks about how she found these diet pills that like, help take out all the fat in your body. But then they had like you would leak like oils that were in your stomach from the fat. And
I've heard of that.
Yeah, she would like soil her pants
Oh
and
my
like
God.
stain. She would stain
Way
like
to keep
bed
it
sheets
real.
in hotels. It was wild.
Wow.
Oh my God. So Zach, like I know you've already told me, but Kelly was very interested in how you kind of got started and what you were doing before this in 2015. Like you were working a full-time job, but you were kind
Yeah.
of in and out.
Yeah. So prior to podcasting, my background is in fundraising and in the nonprofit world. With specifically, it was inspired by my brother who has autism. He was diagnosed when he was about 3. So I think I was maybe like 10 or 11 at the time that he was diagnosed. And so by the time I entered high school and I was about 15, I started organizing fundraisers to help raise money and awareness and just kind of have these the first fundraisers that I started were called they were baseball clinics. And so I had like the LA Dodgers come out and play baseball with kids with autism to kind of just create like an inclusive environment and also raise some money for charity. And that kind of started there. And I worked with an organization for nearly 10 years, started as like a volunteer slash intern and worked my way up to being the foundation's executive director. And it was one of the, at the time, top autism foundations in the country. So it, was really, and this is Autism Awareness Month, April. So I look back at that time, especially during this month, and I'm really proud of the work that I was able to do and the families that I was able to help. And now that I've started to open up about my experience with my brother again on social media, I've had a lot of those families reach back out, and it's been nice to kind of see where they're at all these years later. But that was my background, was fundraising, raising money to help families affected by autism, and it was it was a really, really special time for me.
That sounds super rewarding. I did see your posts about that where you were saying
Yeah.
people, some of the celebrities that have autism aren't the best. They don't represent autism the way that you see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of criticism, that got me into a little bit of a scandal too, because people did not like, me sharing that experience. But like, to be clear, so there are celebrities that have come out, and there's also this trend on TikTok lately with a lot of influencers that are going like on WebMD and looking up autism and noticing certain traits and then self-diagnosing themselves online and
Self-diagnosing.
talking about,
Yeah.
yeah, and talking about how they have autism and
Mm-hmm.
oh, now it makes sense. And it's really just this need to feel important through victimization. And my issue is that it takes away from the families and the individuals that really do struggle with this every day. I understand that the autism spectrum has been broadened and the diagnostic criteria has been loosened up a lot more in recent years. So you do have a lot more of the higher functioning people at the higher end of the spectrum that are getting some later in life diagnoses. And we see some celebrities like Holly Madison from, Playboy, Girls Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
She's recently come out, but she's on a press tour right now and she's promoting her new television show, and she's had 2 reality shows and 2 New York Times best-selling books, and is the host of 2 television shows at the moment, and is on a press tour talking about how getting an autism diagnosis has now given her life meaning. And I'm just like, I understand that she has her own experience, but like the families that I worked with didn't have the luxury of getting a later in life autism diagnosis because they needed it when they were younger, because they
Mm-hmm.
needed early intervention, because this is something that they live with and struggle with every single day. The reality is my brother's now 22 years old. He just aged out of the school system. He's never going to be able to live on his own. My mom's creating a coffee shop so that she has a place that he can work, where he can make a living for himself, because he likely won't be able to get a job at Ralph's or, wherever else. And that's the reality what many people with autism face every day. They don't have the luxuries or the privileges that someone like Holly Madison has. So to come out and talk so openly and parade your autism diagnosis because it's given you a sense of meaning,
Mm-hmm.
good for you. Great. I don't want to diminish that, but you also are completely not acknowledging the people that carried this diagnosis for years before it was opened up for you to be able to now have an autism diagnosis as a grown adult woman who has a family and a whole career that you've built for yourself. The life that she lives and she's coasted through most of her life in spite of her autism, it's not the reality for many people like my brother. And so all I was trying to say is she should not be the public facing image of autism, because that's not the reality of many people. There are many faces of autism. And unfortunately, we don't hear the cases like with my brother, because they don't have the luxury of having a press tour to go in and promote their diagnosis on. That's just their reality. They're living with this every day, so they don't go out and tell their stories every day. But that's the representation that I think matters when it
and
comes
you're
to.
his platform. You're able to, bring everything to light for him. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, now how is your brother? Is he when it comes to the coffee shop, would you be involved in like, helping your mom start this business?
I will help her for sure.
Yes.
I will, this is very much her project and she's building on her own. Once it's open, I'm happy to, help her, really promote it and share it and get it off the ground. But, she's very much trying to build this business all on her own, her and her partner, Vanessa. And, I'm incredibly supportive of them. But I think, it really will be, a place that is inclusive and can give my brother, a sense of responsibility. He has a therapist now that helps him with like life skills. But we have to create these opportunities, right? It's part of the reason I created the baseball fundraisers back in the day, because there weren't baseball teams that were willing to take on kids with special needs. And so I was like, we should be able to create these opportunities for people that don't have access to that, and for them to have a space that feels inclusive, and for them to not feel judged. And so I'm, very proud of my mother for also now creating this business that can, help people like Ethan, my brother, be able to find or to have an income. Because, like I said, he's not going to be able to walk into a job interview and he's for the most part nonverbal, but he's not going to be able to walk into a job interview and be able to get a job somewhere else. So we have to create these opportunities for them.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and unlike, other people, like your brother has a supportive family where,
Yeah.
some people might not have that.
And that's a privilege and a luxury we have. It's part of the
Right.
reason. So my brother's doctor, Dr. Jerry Kartz, now created a new organization called Home Life Community that's providing housing for adults with autism. And that's a big priority because, like, listen, when my mom passes away, I'll naturally be the one to kind of come in and take care of my brother. Or there's my brother Elijah that can also step in and take care of him. He has his dad. He has, my aunts. That, there are options for Ethan, whereas the reality is a lot of families don't have that, and the fear is that if I pass away, who's going to take care of my child? And the reality is a lot of these adults will likely become wardens of the state, and they won't have anybody to advocate for them or look after them or take care of them. So, that's why this housing crisis is kind of an issue now, because you have a lot of these kids that were diagnosed with autism years ago that are now growing up and becoming adults and now have to face the real world.
Well, he sure has a good name. I named my son Ethan. He's 6 months old, so love
Aw.
that name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the 5-year plan. I know that we are limited on time, but I do we're interested in like, where you're taking your next steps in the next 5 years. Do you have that kind of plan or do you just take it day by day?
Yeah, OnlyFans is next. No, I'm kidding.
Yes.
Yes. I won't watch that, Zack.
We'll be there.
5-year plan. Well, I do have things that are in. Listen, I have No Filter. I have Disaster Daters. I may be announcing something else very soon. There is a plan. There is a vision, and the next 5 years are coming together. One thing that I always like to do is try to stay ahead of the curve. When a couple years ago, when I launched my wine line, I remember, really kind of strategically trying to think about what's different from what everybody else in the podcast market is trying to do, specifically like the pop culture market. And I was like, I don't want to do another line of merch. Like everybody is doing merch and selling t-shirts and trying to be cute and cheeky. So I was like, what can I do that still has an influence and a connection of pop culture and reality TV, but that's still authentic to like me and would be something that I could, share with the audience. And so that was kind of the development of the wine line that I had, which was really just supposed to be a limited edition summer collection that we kept going for almost 2 years, which I was, very, very proud of and excited to have, as something that I could go on my live streams on YouTube and drink the wine while people at home were able to go and drink the wine. And we were kind of able to connect over that together. I wanted to make sure that we had something as a point of connection outside of merch. And it was something that nobody else in the podcast market was doing aside from, merch t-shirts.
Was
and
it
so
like
then
a wine in a can?
Yeah, it was canned wine.
Yeah.
It was all online, so you can order it online. It was shipped directly to you. And then I also, to help promote that, the following year, I did a podcast tour, because at that point, I think it was 2022. We had just kind of come out of the pandemic, and I felt like people were ready to go from online and kind of have more of an in-person experience. So I made sure that every show we created had the wine incorporated, and it was more of like a fun experience for audience members to kind of come out and enjoy. And I did that. I toured for 2022 and all of 2023. And now everybody's doing live shows. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break from that. And now I'm working on the next thing. So I always like to stay ahead of the curve. And once people start to catch up, I'm like, okay, it's time to jump to the next thing. So there is a 5-year plan. I said, just stay tuned. There are some announcements that will be coming in the next few weeks that I think will be new and exciting, and hopefully, motivate other people to also step up their game too.
Ooh,
we all
I'm
have,
excited.
These platforms that we can use and, create new and exciting ventures.
Yeah, because creating a product like the wine is like, I've heard, so difficult with distribution, with like just packaging, with the amount of the quantity per shipment. I mean, how did you
Yeah.
get involved? Did you have like a certain brand that wanted to work with you?
Yeah. So luckily I was able to find a company here in LA that had already kind of had the model in place. They had already had connections. They had already had distribution. And so I really just kind of got to come in and creatively put the product together. And they were able to manufacture and distribute it because they were already doing this for other brands at the time, and other influencers that they were trying to build up. And like I said, it was really just supposed to be a limited edition summer collection that just went really well, that we kept it going for as long as we did. And then ultimately, my contract ended. And so now I'm in the process of looking at other potential partners that I can work with to bring the wine line back at some point, because I would love to do that. I really enjoyed formulating and designing and creating and, sharing it. And it was a really fun experience. And I want to bring it back for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it because I know that you said it was a big hit, and we have been in search of, good wines and also good non-alcoholic wines. And one thing we found, there is no dry red non-alcoholic wine on the market that tastes good.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's just something that, like, I've even talked to like chemists and such. They said that they've not been able to perfect this like non-alcoholic red.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know of anybody, I would really appreciate your connection.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Oh.
I know that you're not a mocktailer always, but look at you now, the athlete who's drinking water in a martini glass.
I don't know who I've become. Who am I?
Yes, and then the last question I gotta ask you is, do you have a question that you have for us?
Do I have a question for you guys?
You could really be like super provocative, inappropriate,
We'd appreciate
messy.
that.
We like to get deep.
Well, I want to know what your biggest disaster dater stories are.
Oh, you go first.
I've been married for 10 years. So I really don't have anything, but I know you do.
I think it was the Atlanta guy. He asked me to come down and thought, like, at 21, you're like, oh, like, so silly. Like, I thought it was going to be like, this exact, like, elaborate, date that, is out of the city. I was living in New York, and it ends up being like a Motel 6. I'm like, where the fuck am I? Like, he set the Uber up. It was pretty bad, Zack. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know what to do. And
Were
then
you scared?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I think I just, when you're 21 and you're just not thinking straight, you're like, oh, wow, this is going to be like an experience. I've never been to Atlanta.
Wow.
In Motel 6 in Midtown Atlanta, and he asked me to give him a massage.
Okay.
Yes, I called my aunt who worked for Delta. I said, I need to be on the next standby flight back to New York immediately.
How long were you supposed to be there in Atlanta?
He said like 3 days. It was a long weekend.
3 days? Oh my gosh.
He said that it was going to be like, I'm going to wine and dine you. I'm going to show you. Like, he pretended like he was a producer for CNN. I was like so stupid at 21. God, I mean, you thought I would have I got an engineering degree from Penn State, but that didn't mean shit. I guess I was really floored by that's my problem. I have to learn from those mistakes. When somebody dangles carrots in front of you, sometimes you just want to jump at them, and then you realize, no, there is an ulterior motive, or those carrots might be fucking rotten.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not that exciting. I want to know what your what your worst disaster date was, Zach, before we let off.
Oh God. Well, I mean, the one that I think has become most notable now is when I hooked up with a little person.
Oh, really? Oh. Look at you.
Well, he catfished me. And then I committed because I was like, if I tell him no, then I'm discriminating. So I went down the yellow brick road and I committed.
And you were the sweetest, nicest guy. You even gave him a peck on the cheek or the lips.
Well, I think halfway through it, he realized I really wasn't into it. And he left in a huff. He was really annoyed that he made the effort to come and see me. Because I was traveling for work. So I invited him to my hotel. And he came over and was not what he had sold himself as. And I tried to commit to it. And I guess he sensed that the vibe was just not there. And he was so mad that he wasted time coming all the way out here. And I was like, well, you fucking catfished me. Yeah. And I still gave you a try.
Oh my God. Well,
they're like, you're so vain. You're so vapid. And I'm like, well, when you lie about how you look, I deserve to be a little vain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of catfishes out there. It's not just on MTV. Zach, we really appreciate you making the time to come on Mocktails Are Messy. I know that you get a little messy, but cheers to you doing your mocktail. I mean, I would love to get you a little mocktail when I come visit you in LA next time.
When are you coming back? I'm waiting for my second date.
Cinco de Mayo, baby. I hope you're not too busy. Might need to put something on the books if you don't have a couple lineups.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to slide into your DMs.
They're open. They're dry and they're open.
I don't know, Miss.
Listening to this wants to slide into my DMs. They are open.
Zach, thank you for making time for us.
And we just wanted to cheers to No Filter with Zach. Yes. Just plain Zach. He is the man with a plan. Thank you, Zach. We'll see you in LA.
Thank you, guys.
Mwah.
Be good, but don't be too good.